So was that one thing about waterfalls? That bit of advice? Something about waterfalls and what you should and shouldn't do around them? I can't remember, so it couldn't be terribly important. Anyway, last time on Castlevania, we completed the Anti-Soul Mysteries Lab, and now it's time to go to an area I haven't spoiled. Because I didn't have too much trouble recording this place, heh. So, Dark Palace of Waterfalls. I'm honestly not a big fan of this area. Some of the enemies can be a pain, but honestly, most of my annoyance with this place comes from routing. Routing this level was a pain, and it did actually cause me to have to re-record a thing, and oh, look, it's Fishman. Hi, Fishman, how's it going? Wow, that was lackluster. Like, geez, guys, Fleamen got way better introductions than you guys. They came charging in, and music changed. Here, though, it's just, here's some mermen. Just want to let you know they exist. Alright, that's it. Goodbye. You killed them in like 10 seconds. They do have a pretty fancy death, though. I don't want to say it's gory necessarily. They just evaporate into blood. It's gross at the very least. Though also kind of nonsensical if you think about it. How do they do that? They just spin up into the air and then they're blood now. Anyway though, in terms of attacks, fishmen typically lunge at you. You've seen a lot of their, That wasn't even an attack, they just did a little hop! Anyway, yeah, usually they just like jump and swipe at you, but that one didn't even want to attack. They can also spit water at you, and they do have a magic attack in which they kind of just spin dash, sort of. Well, okay, they curl into a ball, kinda, and leap into the air and come down. They don't really target you, though. Like, oftentimes, I block, but they just soar right over me. And, like, even if I don't block, they still go over me, and I don't get hit. Honestly, you kind of have to try to get magic from those guys when they do that. Anyway, though, where was I before I started talking about the fishmen? Talked about those enemies for longer than I thought I would, despite the fact that they're really not all that tough or really that interesting in terms of enemies. Something about routing, I'm sure, because let me tell ya, routing this place was a pain, and oh my god, that's a lot of fishmen. Routing this place is a pain, and I actually had to scrap some recording because I didn't route correctly. And there is a minigame here I'm not fond of that replaces the usual well, no, it doesn't, ooh! Break from that for a moment. We can now attack after quick-stepping. This is immensely useful, and we're going to see why later. Second, detour from what I was talking about. That redfish man is sort of fire-based. If you have the Whip of Flames equipped, you'll do less damage to them. However, you'll do some damage to them. They're not like the fire emblems we've seen. Fire emblems? Really, Brain? What the fuck? Anyway, yeah, they're not like the fire enemies we've seen before. They just take less damage from fire. Anyway, though, they're actually called mermen. I thought different enemies were called mermen, but that's my mistake. Anyway, yeah, they don't actually have that much health, so honestly, keeping the Whip of Flames equipped isn't that big a deal. Anyway, though, oh, Fleamen! This is actually the perfect point at which to show off the attacking after a dodge, because it's really helpful with Fleamen, not that you would have noticed there. If you dodge soon enough after they attack, and then you attack them back, it's actually a pretty accurate way to hit Fleamen, so they got a little bit easier. Obviously, you still have to have some pretty good timing to pull it off correctly. It's not foolproof, but it definitely helps a lot. Of course, in a room like this, it's still kind of difficult to pull off, because, holy crap, that's a lot of Fleamen. I do actually kind of like the enemy setup here, where it's just one Fleaman. It's like, it's a little bit easy. And then suddenly, bam, a million fleamen. Fuck you. You probably won't die, but you're going to be annoyed by it, that's for sure. Forgot what I was talking about before I started talking about that stuff again. They're frost swords, but they're not really a big deal. They're like the flame swords, but ice elements. So we have their weakness, unlike the flame swords, which means it's gonna be easy to kill them. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Eventually flame swords will be easier. Not gonna say that they're really all that difficult, but oh. I like how Leon barely even flinched from that. He took damage because I wasn't guarding, but like, a sword just sailed through him and he's like, oh, well that kinda hurt, I guess. Anyway, I think I was talking about, like, routing this place and it's a pain, and there's a minigame that I don't like, and it's weird how it works out and where it takes you. And also, I said it replaces the bad platforming section, but it actually doesn't replace the bad platforming section, because there's still bad platforming. But we don't have to worry about that in this episode. We just have to worry about this switch right here. And there we go. Once the room starts to shake and you get a message, then you know you've activated it. So that switch is super important, and you want to pull it as soon as you can. Well, I guess it wasn't really a pull. I just whipped it forward, which I don't quite understand the logistics of that, but like, whatever. It works. It's a magic whip made of alchemy. You know what? I'm not gonna question it. Alright, so yeah, just a shortcut over here. And oh, look, fleamen everywhere. Probably shouldn't have killed that first one, but I couldn't resist the temptation to just have a room flooded with those guys. Okay, lizard men. Why did I think these guys were called mermen? Anyway, though, these guys really like their stab attacks. They can also do a down thrust as well. It's a leaping attack. I don't know if these guys are going to do it right now, though. They kind of just want to go for basic stabs. They also run around real quick, and they kind of like to just run to the end of the room. Like, I've had multiple occasions in which they just run to the front where the camera has a hard time seeing them. It's kinda goofy if you ask me. I do like the running animation. Ah, and here's a save room. So yeah, that wasn't too bad. Our first foray into the Dark Palace of Waterfalls didn't really give us anything too difficult or anything, too much to worry about, but don't worry, our next foray is going to be far more unpleasant. At least on my end. Your end, maybe not so much.